I accidentally discovered my bully's secret, and now I own him. If someone had told me I'd end up blackmailing Oliver goddamn Foster, I'd have laughed in their face, flipped them off, and kept walking. But here I am, sitting on some stranger's bed, holding the secret that could burn his whole perfect life to the ground. And all because I was trying to avoid getting beer spilled on my jeans. Again. Let me back up. This party? I wasn't even supposed to be here. Half the school showed up, most of them drunk, horny, or both. It was one of those huge, messy things where you could hear the bass from the end of the block and smell the weed before you even stepped inside. Not my scene at all. But my friend Jamie dragged me here with the promise of free drinks and terrible decisions, which sounded like a warning, not a selling point. I lasted maybe 20 minutes downstairs before the crowd got too much. People shouting, grinding, someone vomiting in a potted plant. Classic. I slipped away, hoping to find somewhere quiet where I could pretend I had friends and didn't just come to this party to feel less alone. I found an empty bedroom on the second floor, doors slightly open. I didn't think twice, walked in, closed it behind me, and flopped on the bed. That's when I noticed it. A phone, propped up on the mattress like it had been recording something. The screen was still on, the red dot blinking in the corner. Weird, right? I picked it up, expecting some dumb TikTok or maybe a sex tape. I know, gross, but it was a high school party. What I got instead? Not what I expected. The video started mid-sentence, blurry at first, like whoever set it up didn't aim right. Then it settled, and there he was. Oliver Foster, golden boy, captain of everything, king of casual cruelty, the guy who made my life a living hell since sophomore year. He looked wrecked, shirt half unbuttoned, eyes glassy, hair a mess, sitting on the edge of this exact bed, talking like he didn't realize he was being filmed, or maybe like he didn't care. "Do you know how exhausting it is?" he was slurring, smiling all the time, pretending I give a shit. "Everyone thinks I've got it all figured out, but I hate it. I hate every second of it." I blinked, rewound, watched again. Yep, that was Oliver, unfiltered and clearly drunk out of his mind. He kept going. "My dad would kill me if he knew, like actually kill me. Real men don't cry, Ollie," he mocked in a deep voice, laughing bitterly. "Real men don't... whatever. Doesn't matter. None of this matters. Just gotta keep playing the part, right?" And then he dropped the bomb. "You know what's funny?" he whispered, almost like a secret. "I think I have a crush on him. Yeah, him. The guy I fuck with. The one I make fun of. He looks at me like he hates me. Probably does. But when he's not looking away, he sees me. And that scares the hell out of me." I stared at the screen, frozen, heart in my throat. He didn't say my name, but I knew. And that's when the door creaked open behind me. I turned slowly. There he was, in the flesh. Oliver Foster, his expression dropping from cocky to horrified in one heartbeat when he saw what was in my hands. "You, what the hell are you doing here?" he asked, voice sharp, but his eyes already panicking. I stood up, calm, too calm. "I think," I said, meeting his stare, "we need to talk." A few days later. He said it was a joke. A prank, Oliver had scoffed, brushing past me in the hallway the next day like nothing happened. "Congrats, you found my friend's dumbass dare. It's not real, loser." Right, because drunk confessions about your dad emotionally strangling you and your not-so-straight crush sound exactly like a joke. Sure, Oliver. I didn't push it. I let him walk away with that smug smirk, shoulders squared like he'd already won. Like he hadn't looked me dead in the eye the night before, pale and shaking, asking, "Are you gonna show anyone?" I told him, "That depends on you." Apparently, that answer didn't land, because by Friday, he was back to being Oliver Foster, smirking, charming, cruel. We were in the cafeteria, and I was doing what I always did during lunch, trying to survive. Minding my own business at my usual spot near the vending machines. I just opened my drink when I heard his voice behind me. "Hey, Theo." he called out, too loud, too casual. I didn't turn around. Should have known better. A second later, something cold spilled down the back of my neck. Soda. The asshole dumped soda on me. Full cup. Ice and everything. The entire table of jocks behind him burst out laughing. Phones were already out. People were recording, because of course they were. He grinned like it was just good fun. Oops, sorry. Guess I slipped. My whole body went still. My shirt clung to my back, freezing and sticky. My fists clenched around the soda cup in my hand. Laughter echoed around me. Whispers. Someone muttered, "Classic Foster." And maybe I should have just walked away, done what I always did. Bite my tongue, clean myself up, cry in a bathroom stall later. But not today. Today, I turned around, walked right up to him, heart pounding, voice steady. I leaned in, just enough so that only he could hear, and said, calm as anything, "Want me to share the video?" Everything about him froze. The smirk slipped. His eyes darted to the side, checking to see if anyone heard. No one had. They were too busy laughing, watching, expecting a reaction from me. He looked back at me, and in that moment, I saw it. The panic. That flicker of fear in the back of his eyes. "You wouldn't," he muttered, voice tight. "I would," I said, "and I will, unless..." "Unless what?" he hissed. I smiled, sweet and fake. "Unless you start playing nice." And just like that, the power shifted. He didn't say anything, just stared at me, jaw clenched, fists at his sides. Then he laughed, loud and forced, slapping me on the shoulder like we were besties. "Damn, Theo, you got me. Payback, huh?" he said, turning to his audience. "Guess I deserve that." More laughter, confused, but no one questioned it. To them, it looked like a joke, just another dumb cafeteria stunt. But Oliver? He didn't laugh again after that. I won't lie, I liked watching him squirm. After everything he did to me, the names, the rumors, the time he locked me out of gym class in just my boxers, yeah, I was gonna enjoy this for a bit. So I made him do stuff, little things at first, carry my books, give up his spot in line, sit with me at lunch and laugh at my jokes, even when they weren't funny. To everyone else, it looked like he was just being a weird flirt, or maybe just screwing with me. But I could see it, the tight jaw, the fake smile, the way his hands balled into fists under the table. He hated it, hated not being in control, and I loved it. "Grab me a drink," I told him one day after practice, leaning against the vending machine. He blinked. "Seriously?" "Yeah, seriously," I said, loud enough for a couple teammates nearby to hear. "Or should I go live and let the whole school hear what you really think of Daddy Dearest?" He stiffened, didn't say a word, just walked off and came back with a bottle of water. "Thanks, Ollie," I said, grinning like a jackass. "Such a gentleman." He didn't meet my eyes, just sat down beside me on the bench, quiet. I should have felt on top of the world. Instead, something felt off. He looked tired. Not like, "Oh no, I didn't sleep" tired. Like the kind of tired that sinks into your bones. The kind you don't bounce back from with a Red Bull. "You good?" I asked before I could stop myself. He glanced at me, then away. "Fine." Which meant not fine. "You sure?" I pressed, voice lower now, "because you look like you haven't slept in a week." He let out a sharp breath, almost a laugh. "Yeah, try 3 weeks." I stared at him. "Why?" He hesitated, then so quiet I almost didn't hear. "My dad found out I skipped a fundraiser last month. Said if I ever made him look bad again, he'd cut me off. Said I could start over as a nobody, whatever that means." I didn't say anything. He kept going, eyes fixed on the ground. "They plan out everything. What I wear, what I say, what school I go to, what sport I play, all of it. My mom's worse than he is. She tells people I'm dating the mayor's daughter. I've met her once." His voice cracked a little at the end. I didn't know what to say. This was Oliver Foster, the guy who made it his life's mission to humiliate me. And here he was, looking small, cornered, like a kid trying not to cry in public. And the worst part? I felt bad. I hated that I did, but I couldn't help it. Because for the first time, I wasn't looking at the guy who dumped soda on me or made my life hell for 2 years. I was looking at someone trapped, just like I'd felt for most of high school. Different kind of cage maybe, but a cage all the same. And suddenly, the power didn't feel as good. It felt familiar, ugly. Was I just another person telling him what to do? Was I becoming them? I looked down at the bottle of water he gave me. Still cold, still sealed. He didn't have to do it. He could have called my bluff, but he didn't. Because he was scared. And somehow, that hit harder than anything else. 2 days later. I told him to meet me behind the library after school. No one else goes there. It's quiet, out of the way. The perfect place to remind Oliver he's still under my thumb. He showed up like he always does. 10 minutes early, clean hoodie, fake confidence. "You're late," I said, just to mess with him. He rolled his eyes but didn't argue, just stood there, silent, waiting for whatever command I'd give next. "Text your dad," I said, tossing him his phone. "Tell him you're staying after school to help with student council." He blinked. "Why?" "Because we're not done yet," I said, crossing my arms. "Unless you want me to hit send on that video." He sighed, typing without another word. I watched him, fingers shaking slightly as he texted. And I suddenly felt weird. Not proud, not victorious, just cold. Was this still payback? Or was I just watching him fall apart? When he finished, he handed me the phone and leaned back against the brick wall like he hadn't just lied to his dad again for me. And that's when I noticed it. A bruise on his collarbone. Dark, faint, but definitely there. "Where'd that come from?" I asked before I could stop myself. He looked down. "Football." "You quit football." "Guess old habits die hard," he muttered. I didn't press, but the silence that followed was heavy. Too heavy. And the worst part, I wanted to press. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to fix it. God, what was wrong with me? This was the same guy who made me cry in the boys' locker room 3 months ago. But now, watching him fold in on himself like a kicked dog, I didn't feel angry. I felt something else. Something I didn't have a name for yet. A week later. I found myself sitting next to him on the bleachers after school. We weren't meeting up because I made him. He just showed up. Sat down, no words, and pulled out a granola bar. Offered me one, too. I took it without thinking. "Thanks," I said. "Didn't peg you as the sharing type." "I'm not," he replied. "But you look like you hadn't eaten since 2006. I laughed, actually laughed, and he smiled. Not his usual cocky one. This one was soft. "Your mom still thinks you're dating the mayor's daughter?" I asked. He groaned. "She's printing the Christmas cards already." I shook my head. "You ever tell her the truth?" "And what? Get disowned?" "No, I'll pass." His voice was light, but his eyes weren't. They looked tired. Something tugged at my chest. "I'm not saying I care," I started, staring at the sky. "But it sucks, watching you live like this." He didn't answer right away. Then, "You're the first person who's ever said that." My throat went tight. He looked at me like I mattered, like my words actually meant something to him. And suddenly, I didn't want to make him do stuff anymore. I wanted to help. I hated that I wanted that. Worse, I think I liked him. Just a little. Not bully Oliver, not perfect golden boy Oliver, but this one. The real one. And that scared the hell out of me. A few days later. He was in my room. That still felt weird to think about. Oliver Foster in my room, sitting on the edge of my bed, hands clasped together like he didn't know what to do with them. "You can tell them," he said. "About the video, about me." I blinked. "Why would I do that?" "Because I deserve it," he said, voice flat. And for what I did to you. All of it. I stared at him, stunned. Is this some kind of weird guilt performance? I asked. No, he said. I just figured if I were you, I'd want revenge. I walked over, stood in front of him. You think I haven't wanted that? He didn't flinch. I know you have. I know I don't get to ask you for anything, but if you could just not show anyone, please. He looked up at me, and I realized something dangerous. I could destroy him in 2 seconds, and he'd let me. I had all the power now, all of it, but I didn't want it anymore. I'm not going to leak it, I said quietly. I'm not them, Oliver. I'm not your parents. He exhaled, shoulders sagging, like I just handed him oxygen. And in that moment, I wanted to do more than help him. I wanted to reach out, pull him close, feel that he was still holding it together. Not because I had control, not because I won, but because I cared. And I hated it. I tried to shove it down, crush it, remind myself who he used to be, what he did to me. But none of that mattered right then. He looked so lost, so human. And that's when it hit me. Hard and ugly and honest. Holy shit. I liked him. Not in some shallow, passing way, in the way that scared me, in the way I couldn't take back. And I wasn't ready for that. Over a week later. It was raining the night he called me. I almost didn't answer. It was late and I was tired, and my heart was already doing backflips from thinking about him way too much. But I picked up. Hey, he said. His voice was hoarse. Can I come over? 10 minutes later, he was at my window, soaked through, eyes bloodshot. My dad lost it, he said, stepping inside. I told him I wanted to take a gap year instead of going to Yale. Said I didn't want to go into politics. He said I was throwing away everything. He sat on my bed, dripping, shaking. He said if I don't follow the plan, I'm nothing. I sat beside him, slowly, carefully. You're not nothing, I said. He looked at me. You don't have to say that. I want to say that, I told him, because it's true, and I'm tired of watching you believe otherwise. He didn't cry, but he looked like he could, and when I reached for his hand, he didn't pull away. He held on. Not like someone being forced, like someone who finally felt safe. And I realized then, it wasn't about control anymore, or power. It was about him, about us, and the fact that somehow, despite everything, I'd fallen for the boy who used to ruin my life. And now, I just wanted to help him build a new one. 3 days later. I was halfway to class when I saw her, Oliver's mom, waiting by the front office in a beige coat that probably cost more than my rent. She looked straight through me, like she was assessing how much damage I could do. Then she smiled, not the friendly kind, the kind that made my skin crawl. She asked to speak privately. I said no. She didn't care. I don't know what you think you're doing with my son, she said, low and cold. But he has responsibilities, a future, and you're a distraction. I laughed, mostly because I didn't know what else to do. You mean because I'm not country club enough? Her eyes narrowed. Because you don't belong in his world. She didn't threaten me, not directly, but I walked out of that office feeling like a target had been painted on my back. And when I saw Oliver later, quiet, tense, clearly shaken, I knew she'd gotten to him too. He didn't say much, just sat beside me in the music room and stared at the piano keys like they were holding the answers. I'm sorry, he muttered finally. She doesn't know anything, she's just trying to control it all like always. I wanted to tell him it was okay, that I didn't care, that she didn't scare me. But part of me did care. Not about her, about him. what he'd lose, what he'd have to fight, and what I might have to let go of just to keep him safe. 2 days later. We stood in front of his house, the heavy silence between us like a weight neither of us could shake off. He hadn't moved, just staring up at the house with those perfectly lit windows. It was like he was seeing the prison he'd built around himself, the walls closing in. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered, voice tight. "If I push back, everything falls apart. My college wrecks, the inheritance, my dad, he'll cut me off." His words hung in the air, and I could feel the tension crawling between us. Then he finally turned to face me, his eyes full of something I couldn't quite place. But there was fear in them. Fear and something darker. "I can handle them. I can handle all that, but if they come after you, Theo, I don't think I can live with that." My chest tightened, and I felt it. The weight of all of it. The burden he carried, the years of being pushed into a life he hated. I should have said something, told him to walk away, that it wasn't worth it. I almost did. Almost. But then I reached for his hand. Slowly. Like I wasn't sure I had the right to, but did it anyway. My heart thumped harder in my chest as I spoke, every word spilling out before I could stop it. "Let them come," I said, my voice low but steady. "I'm not scared of them. I'm scared of losing you." His gaze softened, but it was like a weight had been lifted. Just for a second, but then something in me shifted. I couldn't hold back anymore. "I know it's stupid," I said, licking at her hands together before meeting his eyes again. "But I think I care too much for you. Too much to let you go. Hell, I'm pretty sure I'm falling for you." His eyes went wide, like he hadn't expected that. His breath hitched, and he looked at me like I'd just dropped a bombshell on him. I almost panicked, ready to pull away, but before I could, he moved closer. His hand cupped my cheek, and I realized I wasn't the only one feeling this, whatever it was between us. "You're not joking, are you?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper, his forehead resting against mine. "No," I whispered back, my heart pounding in my chest. "Not joking. Not anymore." And before I could second guess myself, his lips were on mine, soft, hesitant at first, like he was testing the waters. But then, with a low breath, it deepened, and it felt like everything we'd been holding back for so long was finally crashing down. And I didn't care. I didn't care if it was stupid or if it was too risky. I cared about him, and that was all that mattered now. A few days later. We just finished a late study session at my place when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and when I opened it, Oliver's dad was standing there, all sharp suits and cold eyes. "You're making a mistake, Theo," he said, voice low and threatening. "My wife told you to stay away from my son." Oliver was in the kitchen, out of earshot, but I knew what was coming. This wasn't a conversation, it was a warning. "I don't care what you think," I said, standing my ground. "You've manipulated him long enough. You don't control him anymore." His eyes flashed with something dangerous. "I'm not talking about control, boy. I'm talking about consequence. Your little rebellion? It's going to cost you." I wasn't afraid. At least, I didn't want to show that I was. "I'm not backing down." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "You're just a kid. You don't understand how much you're risking. This isn't a game. You're in way over your head." I didn't respond right away. Instead, I glanced over my shoulder at the kitchen door. I knew Oliver was listening now. I knew he would have already known by now that I was talking to his dad. I knew this was a test. He needed to see that I wasn't going to let them break me or him. "I'm not scared of you," I said, taking a deep breath. "And neither is Oliver, so leave him alone." He didn't say anything else. He just turned and walked out, but I could feel the threat hanging in the air. I wasn't stupid. This wasn't over. It could never be that easy. A week later. The next few days were rough. Oliver was withdrawn, staring off into space during class, looking like he hadn't slept in days. I tried to talk to him, but he kept brushing me off, telling me everything was fine. It wasn't fine. Finally, after school, he let me drag him to my favorite park, far away from anyone who might judge us. He didn't even resist, just followed me, silent like a ghost. When we sat on the swings, he finally spoke. "They're going to tear everything down," he said, voice tight. "My dad, he's right. This could ruin everything. I've got nothing left, not even myself." My chest tightened. I'd seen the cracks in his mask before, but now it was breaking wide open, and I didn't know what to do or say to fix it. "Oliver," I said, my voice steady even though my heart was racing, "you are something. You're more than what they've made you. I don't care what your family thinks. I care about you. Not the perfect son they expect, not the heir to their business, just you, the real you." He shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "You don't get it, Theo. I can't just walk away. I can't. It's not that easy." I reached out, grabbing his hand, holding it tight, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't just fear. It was hope. Barely there, but it was there. "You don't have to walk away alone," I said. "We'll figure it out together. I'm not letting you go, not now, not ever." And for the first time in a long time, he didn't pull away. He just nodded, and that small gesture meant everything. 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, we found ourselves standing at the doorstep of Oliver's family mansion, his parents' home, and the place that had tried to suffocate him for years. They didn't know we were coming, and I wasn't sure I was ready for what came next. Oliver looked at me, his expression a mix of fear and defiance. I could tell this was the hardest thing he'd ever done. He was choosing to fight back, not just for his freedom, but for us. "I'm ready," he said quietly, but his eyes said something else, something that broke my heart. I squeezed his hand. "Whatever happens, I'm with you. Don't forget that." We walked in together, facing his parents head on. The tension in the room was suffocating, but there was something different now. Oliver wasn't the scared little boy they could push around anymore. He was a man, standing on his own, and I was standing right next to him. "Mom, Dad," Oliver said, his voice firm, "I'm not going back. I'm not doing this for you anymore." His mother looked shocked. His father was furious, his face red. "You'll regret this. You're throwing away everything. For him?" He spat, pointing at me. "I'm not throwing anything away," Oliver said, his voice steady. "I'm finding myself, and I'm doing it with Theo. I don't care what you think." They didn't have a comeback for that. Oliver's mother was silent, but his father, his grip on control slipping, stumbled backward. You'll never be free," he hissed. "We'll make sure of that." But this time, Oliver didn't flinch. He stood taller than ever. "I already am," he said. "I'm free." We left his family behind. In that moment, something inside me shifted. The boy I once hated was becoming the man I was falling for. And we were fighting together, not for control, but for freedom, for ourselves. And as we walked out into the night, I realized that this, us, wasn't about revenge. It was about something real, something true. We didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, we were in this together. And that felt like enough. A few months later. A few months had passed since the storm. Oliver was no longer a shadow of the person he used to be. He was starting to find himself again, and with each passing day, I could see the weight lifting from his shoulders. His parents, after the initial fury, the threats, the anger, had finally come around. They hadn't expected him to leave, to walk away from everything they'd planned for him. It hadn't been easy, but somehow, in their own way, they realized they couldn't control him forever. They sent a few more threats in the beginning, but eventually, even they knew that the battle wasn't with me, it was with themselves. They made amends, slowly, awkwardly, but they came around. I had my doubts, of course, but as time passed, I saw a shift in them. The harsh words softened, the icy tone melted, and though they didn't have the perfect answers, they were trying. And Oliver? He was learning to forgive them, at his own pace, in his own way. One evening, as we sat in the living room of my house, me and Oliver curled up on the couch, I finally told him what I'd kept from him for months. "You know," I started, my fingers tracing patterns on his hand, "there's something I've never told you." Oliver looked up, his eyes curious as always. "What's that?" "I deleted the video," I said, my voice soft, almost a whisper. "That night, I never had any intention of showing it to anyone. I mean, yeah, it gave me power over you at first, but it wasn't about that. I just wanted you to stop hurting me." Oliver's face softened, his gaze steady, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes. "You really did that? You could have used it. I know you could have." "I know," I replied, nodding. "But it didn't feel right. And once I saw the real you, the you who wasn't just some monster I'd built in my head, I realized I didn't need it. I didn't need to control you, I just wanted to be with you." For a moment, there was silence, a quiet understanding passing between us. Then Oliver squeezed my hand, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "You're a pain in the ass, you know that," he teased, but it wasn't unkind. It was playful, affectionate. I chuckled, the sound light and free. "You don't have to remind me." He leaned in, resting his head on my shoulder. "I'm glad you didn't. You didn't need that power over me." I wrapped my arm around him, pulling him closer. "I didn't. And you didn't need me to be your savior either. You've always had the strength to save yourself, Ollie." His fingers brushed against mine, and I felt a connection between us. The bond that had deepened into something real, something honest. It wasn't perfect. We were still figuring things out. But for the first time, I wasn't scared of what came next. He tilted his head up, his eyes searching mine. "I'm glad you're in my life, Theo. I don't know what I'd do without you." I smiled, feeling the warmth spread through me, and replied, "Same." He hesitated, then his expression softened, and he looked at me with a tenderness that made my heart beat faster. "Theo, there's something I've been meaning to tell you." I felt a shift in the air. "What is it?" Oliver took a deep breath, and his voice was quieter this time, like he was revealing something fragile. "I've always been in love with you. Even when I was the biggest jerk to you, I didn't know how to handle it, didn't know what to do with it, but it's always been you." I froze for a second, my breath catching in my throat. I knew it. I had felt it in the way we connected, the way we came to understand each other. But hearing it from him, hearing it out loud, was like a weight lifting off my chest. I smiled softly, my heart swelling with something I couldn't explain. "God, you're an idiot," I said, half laughing, half teary. "But I'm glad you said it." He laughed too, a light, almost nervous sound. "I know, I've always been an idiot, but I'm okay with it now. With us." I pulled him into my arms, pressing a soft kiss to the top of his head. "Yeah, me too." Then, as if on impulse, I tilted his chin up, kissed him gently on the lips. A kiss that was warm and full of everything we'd been through, everything we'd built. It was slow and tender, nothing like the chaos of our past, just us. When we pulled away, he looked at me, a smile tugging at his lips. "I think I'm falling for you even more now," he said with a grin. I chuckled, brushing a stray strand of hair from his face. "I think I'm falling for you, too." And that was it. The weight that had once pulled us apart had melted away. All that was left was us, two people who had fought, struggled, and finally found each other. And now, it wasn't about control. It wasn't about the power struggle. It was just about love, and figuring out what we could do with it, together. The world outside was still the same, But in that moment, it didn't matter. We were starting fresh, and whatever came next, we would face it side by side. And for the first time in a long time, I was sure, no matter how complicated everything had been, this was real. The end. Do you think Theo was right in helping his bully? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our rainbow force and stay wholesome.